Alright guys, it's Stephen here on BlueMoonRisingTV, and we're going to do something today that you've all been asking for in the comments for a very, very long time, and it is the loan watch. This is the first part of 2 episodes. The second episode might already be out by the time you've watched this, but if not, this is where we're going to start. We're going to cover all the players that are on loan from Manchester City, and there's a lot of them. There's like 23, 22, something like that, but there's a lot of names there, and we're going to go through them all one by one. We're going to cover the first team players out as well, even though we think maybe they've probably gone for good, but we'll mention them. But in general, it's going to be about the potential stars of the future, the potential household names of City's young academy prospects. We're going to start with one person who definitely 100% isn't an academy prospect, and that's Wilfred Boney. I think it's fair to say so far his loan at Stoke has been pretty diabolical really. 4 starts, been hooked twice, not scored any goals, and I think his career has gone to pot, unfortunately. Good luck, Wilfred. One person whose career seems to be somewhere in limbo, but the loan is going very well so far, is Joe Hart. He's actually started every game for Torino. The fans seem to like him. They've got flags and banners with his names on. But if you're holding out for some hope that maybe he'll come back next season, that maybe he'll learn how to pass to a certain required level that Pep wants, I wouldn't get your hopes up. Probably look away now, because what I've read online suggests that his pass completion ratio at some point has been as low as 35% in some games. Now, when you compare that to Claudio Bravo's 80+% in the derby, it doesn't bode well. I've got a feeling he'll do very well at Torino in general. They'll like him, but I don't think he's coming back. And also, Conte was allegedly, the Chelsea manager, sat in the stands watching his performances there. So Joe, I think he is unfortunately on his way, but I'm glad he's doing well over in Italy. Another man who's doing well, who's also relatively liked by a lot of City supporters, is Sami Nasri. He went on loan to Sevilla, and he's taken to life over in Spain pretty well so far. He scored a goal, he's already set one in 5 starts, and he's playing well. The manager has been very complimentary about him. There's some rumours that he might want to move to New York City after his loan at Sevilla has finished, which is an odd one given the fact that he's still at a relatively good age for football. But good luck, Sami, and so on. I would love to see you back in a blue shirt, but once again, I don't think it's going to happen, and it isn't also going to happen, in my opinion, for Eliaquim Mangala. He's also been a regular starter over at Valencia, but his performances so far have been mixed from what I've read so far online in terms of research. Some games he's lost his man, some games he's looked pretty solid. Basically, he's been Mangala, the Mangala that we saw at City. One moment brilliant, one moment tight as bramble. But Mangala, good luck to you, mate. You seem like a nice bloke and so on, and fingers crossed he'll remain, for now at least, a regular starter for Valencia, and hopefully if he does move on in the summer, which I suspect he will, we'll get a few quid back for him. Another player who's, well, in this first team kind of category, but he's also a young player, is Jason Denayer. Now, a few of you might know in general that I'm a fan of Jason Denayer, but I would be lying if I said he had a good start so far at Sunderland. It's worth mentioning a little bit the backstory here, so with Denayer in general, that he pushed for this loan move, and it all came about because in general his trust with Manchester City was lost about a year ago, when I think it's fair to say we probably screwed him over a little bit. He signed a new contract, a new long-term contract last year, on the premise that he'd be part of our first team squad last season, and then only days after doing that we went and signed Nicolas Otamendi, and we also kept Demichelis, put him down in 5th position in the pecking order. From that moment onwards he wasn't very happy. I think it's understandable. If I signed a new contract on the promise of one thing, got told another, and then something else happened, I wouldn't be happy either. So he went on loan to Galatasaray, had a decent season there, and now this summer he hoped to get a chance. He was guaranteed nothing, no promises were made, but City did want him around. When it looked like he wouldn't be involved in first team football, he pushed for a move and he got a loan to Sunderland. Now so far he's had a pretty mixed start. He's started 3 games, and his first full league debut came against Spurs, where he had a pretty torrid time at right back against Son. Now Son actually tore him to pieces that day. I'm not going to pretend he didn't, but there were various variables and circumstances to consider. He only was told 5 minutes before kickoff that he was about to make his debut, and he had to tell Patrick Van Aanholt, the man he replaced, that he was placed starting ahead of him. Very weird thing for Moyes to do, but he did it out on the pitch when they were warming up. It happened, I don't know why, but it was very odd, very last minute. As a result, he didn't play that well. I mean, maybe his form will take a while to adapt to the league. Maybe it'll never happen. Some players do reach a certain level in terms of potential and ability, but so far it hasn't happened for him in terms of the Premier League. He has another game. He started left back when he did all right last week. And fingers crossed there are enough games for him to make a stake at least. Maybe slowly start to adapt to the culture, the way they play, and maybe he'll learn a thing or two under Moyes' tutelage. And he's a good manager for defenders. If not, good luck, Jason. I've still got a lot of belief in your ability, but so far it's been a mixed spell. Right, now we're going to go over to Holland. For whatever reason, we've sent a lot of players over to Holland. When you have to realise what makes that league so appealing for clubs. And one of them is the fact that in general, the Dutch league and the division below that tends to be good for young attacking players. Over in England, you get a lot of people saying, a lot of City fans in particular, I've seen comments saying, why aren't we sending the likes of Barker or Celina to a more challenging league, to the Championship and so on. But what people don't realise is that in the Championship, players don't tend to get a chance. Managers throw him for one game, and if they don't excel, they drop him immediately. It's very dog-eat-dog at the lower levels in English football. So the Dutch league is seen as good because they have a mentality in general of promoting young players, of giving them a chance. And because the quality of defending in general isn't very good over there, it isn't. I'm sorry, any Dutch followers are watching this. Attacking players, young ones particularly, get a bit of space to express themselves, and this so far has paid dividends. City have sent 3 players on loan to FC20, a Dutch Premier League team, historically quite successful. Obviously, they won the league a few years back too. They're having some serious financial difficulties at the moment, so we sent basically a forward line over to him. We've given Bersan Celina, Enes Unal and Yoya Boa, and they've all basically become FC20's front three. And so far, it's been really, really effective. They're sat in 7th, but it's the manner of the goals and the assists so far that our young lads have got that have impressed. I'm going to start with Enes Unal. Now, he has been the one shining beacon of light so far in this youth window, so to speak. He's been absolutely excellent. He's the top scorer in the Eredivisie. That takes some doing for anyone to be the top scorer in any league. Never mind a 19-year-old who's playing his first games at that high level in the Dutch league. It's very impressive. And the most impressive thing, not just the goal tally, but the actual goals he's scored. The quality of them is totally sublime. It's a whole variety of goals. Dare I say it, he reminds me a little bit, and I mean this in terms of ability, and the way he holds himself, his stature, almost his confidence of a young Zlatan. I know that's very high praise, and if we get even 75% of the player that Zlatan is, then we'll be very happy in general as a club. But he looks good. He looks very encouraging. It's long ranges, it's chesting it, then bicycle kicks, it's perfectly placed headers, it's free kicks, beating 2 men and putting in the top corner. He seems to have it all to his game so far, and he seems to have that confidence that underpins the whole thing. And a goal every 66 minutes, that is absolutely phenomenal. Fingers crossed he can carry on this form, maybe pick up the top goal scorer award in the Eredivisie, and next season when he'll be finally eligible for English football due to work permit problems, maybe he'll impress Guardiola in pre-season and stake a claim, because we are short maybe of a striker or two there. Either side of him, you've got Yoya Boa and Celina, both City young lads. Celina, we all know a little bit about. He's gone over loan over there for the season as well. I think a lot of people were maybe not impressed when he come out and said that he won't have a chance now with Leroy Sané signed and Nolito and so on. I don't think it was necessarily defeatist. I think he was just being realistic, but I understand maybe the concerns about his mentality. From what I know about him in general, he seems to be very intent on making a career for himself in the game, which is no bad trait at all in general. And he's gone on loan there, and so far he's done very well. He's already scored 3 goals, and it was in 3 consecutive Eredivisie games. He looks very sharp, very intelligent, lining up on the left, cutting aside. He's got the number 10 shirt, which I'm sure he loves as well. And he's creating goals. The fans seem to like him. They're in 7th place at the moment. They're on a decent run of form, and he's doing his job, and fair play, he's at a relatively good level as well. Over on the right as well, Yoya Boa. If you don't know much about him, he's one of the young Right to Dream Academy graduates. City have the link up with the African Academy, and in general, not in general, as a matter of fact, every year we take one of their graduates, the highest rated graduate, and we bring them into City's Academy and we give them a chance either on loan or with our youth teams. And Yoya Boa was the one that came from that academy the year before last. Now, he went on loan to Lille last year. He did okay there, had the odd substitute appearance, but this season so far, he's been starting regularly for FC20, and he's been good as well. He's only a slight lad, very small, very technical, very fast, very skillful. But he seems to have a great touch and an ability to burst past his marker. And he's already scored a sublime 30-yard curl it into the top corner from a first-time layoff. And he looks like a very good young player. I don't know if he'll make it at City. I don't know if any of these will necessarily guarantee to make it. But they all obviously have ability. And those 3 so far for FC20 are doing themselves no harm in the long term. Fingers crossed they can come back next year and we'll be following their progress throughout the season as well and impress. Now we're going to go down the division to NEC Breda. These are one of the clubs that we have an actual official loan link-up with. City made this loan link-up last year official, and I think the idea was that hopefully NEC Breda would get promoted to the Eredivisie, so we'd have a club there perfectly placed to give our young players top flight experience. Sadly, it didn't quite happen. Despite Enes Unal's incredible goal haul for them last season when he was banging them in at that level as well, they just missed out in the playoffs and they remained in the second tier of Dutch football. But so far, we have sent a few players there. We've sent 4 as it stands. Brandon Barker, Ashley Smith-Brown, Thomas Agyapong, another Right to Dream graduate, and David Paula. In general, so far this loan has gone very well for Brandon Barker. He seems to be the first choice left winger for NEC Breda, which is good. He started started all the games apart from one, which he missed because he actually arrived late at the ground because of traffic for some bike event, which is understandable for any young lad in another country. Things like that happen. But he seems to be impressive with his attitude. He's done pretty well in the media. I've seen him speaking to NEC Brader's TV channel and so on. And the fans on Twitter, after doing a little bit of research, seem to be impressed with his ability, his work rate down the left, and he's linked up so far pretty well with Ash Smith-Brown at left back. I think it's fair to say that we had high hopes for Brandon Barker, and it might still happen, but in general, last year was a bit of a write-off for him. I don't think it's unfair to say that about a year and a half ago, he was the prospect in the academy. He was absolutely on fire, scoring a whole host of quality goals. It seemed to be every game he'd beat his man about 5 times, score or assist, in general cause havoc, and I was absolutely impossibly excited for him, but it didn't quite happen last season. Maybe he should have made his debut a lot earlier. I think in general the idea that Guardiola has of giving Brahim his debut age 17, given the form he's in, is a good idea. In general, youth football, you tend to strike while the iron's hot, to give them that incentive to maybe reach at another level, to give them that kind of motivation to go further. As it is, I think he peaked about a year and a half ago, and he's stagnated since then due to a lack of opportunity in front of him, and he's been playing at the same level since then, which isn't good. There are rumours that he was meant to go on loan last season, but whatever reason, it didn't happen, and he had a very short, ill-fated spell at Rotherham, which was never going to work well, given the football they play, given the intensity of the Championship for loans in general, and given his I guess his physique and style of football. He was never going to fit into a dogged, functional Rotherham team as a lightning quick winger. But now he's gone to NEC Breda, maybe got the loan he should have had a year ago. Fingers crossed he'll get there. Maybe he needs that spark. Maybe he needs regular football to show what he can do in the professional game. Fingers crossed he'll actually get a chance to come back next season more motivated, ready for first team football potentially. But if not, this will definitely help him in the long term. Ash Smith-Brown is doing very well so far. He scored and assisted already for them. His goal was very nice as well. It was like a backheel flick from a corner, and he seems to be the regular at left back. He in general hasn't really had the headlines in the way that Angelino has, which is understandable given the fact that Angelino perhaps is a little glitzier, and maybe a slightly, well, he is probably a better prospect in terms of potential ability, but do not write Ash Smith-Brown off. He's always done well for England at youth level. He's a regular for the England youth teams. Very technical player, seems to be two-footed on his left or right, can play anywhere across the back, and also in midfield as well, but mainly lines up at left back, and he could be the kind of player that is a little bit of a late bloomer in terms of like a Kieran Trippier, where he goes down the division, but eventually works his way back up to the Premiership and ends up even on the brink of the England squad. Ash Smith-Brown does have that ability potentially. It might take him a while to get to his full potential, or it might happen next season or whatever, but he is one to, slowly keep an eye on, and fingers crossed he can use this season to establish his foothold in the professional game before maybe making an even more interesting loan move next season. We've also got David Paolo there. I think quite a few people were expecting big things from him given his performance against Chelsea in the FA Cup. If I'm being totally honest, that performance surprised me. I'd watched him a lot for the EDS last year. I was surprised when he started and when he was involved at all. We picked him up on a free transfer last summer, and he looked okay for the EDS. Functional. He worked hard, he ran the line well, but there was no signs of the raw, natural, pure talent you need to be a Manchester City star in the future. He didn't have any signs of potential genius, and that's what you have to have these days to have a chance in the first team. Look at Kelechi Iheanacho's level, and even he isn't guaranteed a start. David Paolo is, as it stands in my opinion, nowhere near that. And I think it's probably fitting that he's gone to NEC. Not fitting, probably telling is the word. And so far, he's only made one substitute appearance for 15 minutes. It's not been a good loan for him so far. He isn't a bad player by any stretch of the imagination, but I think against Chelsea in the FA Cup, he had the game of his life, and I'd be very surprised if he reaches that level again personally. David, if you're watching this, probably not. Prove me wrong, mate. I think I like your attitude and your work rate, but I don't see you having a career at the very highest level as it stands at the moment. Fingers crossed that he can get into NEC Brader's team and maybe make a nuisance of himself, get a few goals, and maybe help his career next season. Thomas Agyapong is another right to dream graduate. He's the 4th player on loan at NEC Breda. Don't know much about him, if being totally honest. He's been on loan to various clubs. SC20 last season, now he's gone on loan to NEC, the division below. I think he's started a couple of games so far. He's a midfielder, what I can gather, and let's hope he gets more games. But Blues, that is the first part of the Loan Watch roundup. There'll be more tomorrow coming. You've got the likes of Manu Garcia, Patrick Roberts, Zinchenko, Moreno, even more, Jack Byrne. Even there's loads of players tomorrow coming up. What do you make of this part one? Who else do you want to see talking about? What do you make of the players' performances so far out on loan? Get commenting below, drop a like on the video, subscribe, and we'll see you for part 2.
Now, football's all about opinions, mate, and I think yours is wrong. City, well, as it stands, beginning of October,